What would you do if someone took the most important parts of your past, your words, your feelings, your memories, and sold them without asking? That's what happened to Taylor Swift. When she was young, she wrote songs that made people feel seen. Her music wasn't just pop, it was personal. But one day, the rights to her old songs were sold to someone she didn't trust. For many people, this would feel like the end. But Taylor didn't stop. She made a decision that surprised the world, and in a strange way, it matched the ideas of an old philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche believed that pain is not just something to avoid. He believed pain can shape us. He said we must face life fully, even the hard parts, and use that pain to become stronger. He called this the will to power, the inner force that helps us turn suffering into strength. If Taylor had read Nietzsche, she might have seen her fight for her music not just as revenge, but as something deeper. Something about finding power within herself. Something about becoming the person she was meant to be. To understand this, we have to go back to the beginning of her career. When Taylor was a teenager, she signed a deal with a record company called Big Machine Records. This deal helped launch her career, but it also gave the company control of her master recordings, the original versions of her songs. For years, she made music under this deal and became one of the most famous artists in the world. But in 2019, everything changed. The company was sold to Scooter Braun, and with it, her masters. Taylor didn't get a say in the deal. She felt betrayed and heartbroken. It wasn't just about business, it was personal. She said it felt like someone had taken a piece of her life and handed it to a stranger. Now imagine how that must feel. You spend your life building something only to be told you no longer own it. Nietzsche would call this a crisis of power. He believed that the way we respond to moments like this defines who we are. Most people would walk away. But Taylor didn't. She decided to re-record her old albums, one by one. She called them Taylor's version. This was her way of saying, "This is mine now." She wasn't going to wait for permission. She was going to take back what was hers, even if it meant starting over from the beginning. That moment when she chose action over anger, creativity over complaint, is where her story begins to look a lot like Nietzsche's ideas. It's not just about music anymore. It's about turning pain into power, about writing your own story, even after someone tries to erase it. And in doing so, Taylor didn't just recover what she lost, she became something more. She became a symbol of self-mastery. When Taylor decided to re-record her old songs, many people didn't understand it at first. Why go through all that effort? Why not just move on and make new music? But Taylor had a bigger plan. By re-recording the albums, she was creating new versions that she could fully own. These Taylor's version releases weren't just copies, they were powerful symbols. They said, "This is my voice, told in my way, under my name." And her fans understood that. They stood by her, supported her, and chose to stream her versions instead of the originals. It wasn't just about music anymore. It became a movement. In Nietzsche's philosophy, there's an idea called eternal recurrence. He asked a hard question. If you had to live your life over and over again, exactly the same way, would you say yes? Would you accept the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, all of it? This idea is not about changing the past, it's about owning it. That's what Taylor was doing. She couldn't undo what happened with her masters, but she could return to those moments and relive them in a new way. She wasn't trying to forget her past. She was walking straight into it, stronger and more aware. Each re-recorded album was more than a business move. It was a message to her fans, her past, and even to herself. I decide what my story means. That is what Nietzsche meant when he talked about giving your own life, meaning not waiting for someone else to give it to you. Taylor didn't just reclaim her songs, she reclaimed her story. And by doing that, she showed us how powerful it is to face your past, not with fear, but with fire. Nietzsche's most famous idea might be the will to power. A lot of people think this means controlling others, but that's not what he meant. For Nietzsche, the will to power is about changing your pain into strength. It's about becoming more powerful than the things that hurt you. Taylor's situation could have left her feeling helpless. Her music was taken, her trust was broken, and her voice was in the hands of someone else. But instead of staying silent or being stuck in anger, she created something new. That is true power, not revenge, but rebirth. This is what makes Taylor's response so powerful. She didn't fight in the way people expected. She didn't sue everyone. She didn't disappear. She used her talent, her team, and her voice to rebuild her past. She worked late nights, re-recorded full albums, and paid attention to every detail. That takes energy. That takes vision. And most of all, that takes belief in yourself. Nietzsche would say that this kind of action is what separates ordinary people from great ones. Not because they never fall, but because they rise again with a plan. Taylor didn't just get her songs back. She created a whole new version of herself, and fans noticed. Critics noticed. The music industry noticed. She became more than a singer. She became a creator who made her own path, even when others tried to block it. In Nietzsche's world, this is what the will to power looks like, choosing growth when life gives you pain, and turning your wound into your weapon. Nietzsche had another powerful idea. He called it the Übermensch, which means the higher human or the one who rises above. This isn't about being better than others. It's about becoming your own guide, someone who doesn't follow the crowd but creates their own path. The Übermensch doesn't ask for permission. They don't copy others. They build something new from inside themselves. In many ways, Taylor Swift is doing exactly that. She's not just following music trends. She's making her own. Each of her albums has a different feeling, a different story, a different version of her identity. She names them after emotions, colors, and eras of her life. Reputation, Lover, Folklore, Midnights, each one shows a new side of who she is. No one tells her how to be. She decides. This is what Nietzsche meant when he said we should create our own values. Instead of letting the world define success, Taylor defines it for herself. Instead of letting the industry shape her image, she shapes it with her own words, her own style, her own story. That's why people connect with her. She's not trying to be perfect. She's trying to be real. And that realness, that honesty, is what gives her strength. Being a modern Übermensch doesn't mean being fearless. It means being brave enough to face your fears and still move forward. Taylor faced betrayal, pain, and pressure, but she turned all of it into music, meaning, and movement. That's what makes her journey so powerful. Not because it's easy, but because it's hers. This isn't just a story about Taylor Swift. It's a story about all of us. Because maybe you're not a singer, maybe you're not famous, but everyone has felt what she felt, like their voice wasn't heard, like their story was taken, like they lost something they worked hard for. And in those moments, we all face the same question: do we give up or do we fight for what matters? Nietzsche didn't promise an easy life, but he believed we could make life meaningful if we stayed honest, strong, and creative, especially in hard times. Taylor's story shows what that looks like. She didn't wait for someone to fix things. She became the person who fixed them. That's a message anyone can carry with them. So what would it look like if you took back control of your story? What would your own version be? The version where you are honest, powerful, and unafraid. You may not be able to change the past, but you can rewrite the way you live with it. And that choice, that action, is where true power begins. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy is one simple idea: become who you are. That sounds easy, but it's not. Becoming yourself means facing pain. It means making hard choices. It means walking your own path, even when it's lonely. Taylor Swift didn't become stronger by avoiding her struggles. She became stronger by going through them and choosing who she wanted to be on the other side. She didn't just sing songs. She rewrote them. She didn't just lose her past. She rebuilt it. She didn't wait to be saved. She saved herself. That's the real lesson here. You don't need to be rich or famous to take back your story. You just need courage. You just need to believe that your voice matters. And when life breaks you down, you can choose to rise not as the same person, but as someone wiser, braver, and more free. If this story opens something in you, hit subscribe to Intuitra. This channel is for those who think deeply, feel strongly, and want to live truthfully. Until next time, stay curious, stay honest, and remember, your story is still being written.